Hi everyone, I'm Orlando de Mauro, and today, together with my teammate Jorge Navarro,
Hello, everyone.
we are going to present from concept to code, developing custom for components. Also, we have also with us Raffaele Facondini that will moderate the Q&A section that we are going to have at the end of the presentation. So let's start. Here you can see an overview of the main topics that we are going to cover today. We're going to start doing an introduction on flowable forms. Then we are going to show to you how we are currently integrating custom components in our platform. After that, we will speak about the new workflow that we implemented together with the Flowable CLI. And also, we are going to show to you a few changes that we made to the custom components API. After that, we are going to have a demo. And as mentioned before, we are going to have a QA section at the end of the presentation. So, flowable forms. What is Flowable Forms? Flowable Form is a powerful declarative form library that lets the developers implement complex forms. This also thanks to the out-of-the-box validations and a large set of components. It is integrated in all our products, and it is based on React, but it can also be used in a vanilla JS application or also in an Angular project. One of the main features of Flowable Forms is that it's possible to extend the component store with custom components. So the developer can implement his own component and integrate it in platform. But how we do it? So how we do this integration in platform? So first of all, the first step that needs to be followed is to create a palette. A palette is a file with a configuration. Here you can see an example. We have an object with a specific structure and specific properties, and then we have the stencil array where we define the single stencil with its own properties. Once the file is created, we need to upload it. We need to copy it in a specific class path in our environment. But also, the developer needs to set up his own environment to be able to build the component and implement the component itself. Here, you can see a small example. We have a very basic environment configuration. We use a rollup. And here on the right, you can see also a really basic React component. But we show it with a rollup, but the developer can decide other bundler. Here, you can see how then we need to integrate the created component in design. We need to create a configuration, then we have to bundle it, and we have to upload InDesign together with the palette file that we created before. Same story for work. We create the configuration file, we bundle it. In this case, we call it custom.js, for example, and we need to copy it to a specific path. But at the end of these integrations, what we need to do is build the front end of the two applications, rebuild them, and redeploy. So we decided now to create a new workflow to achieve it. But why? Why we decided to change the workflow? First of all, it's because of our new Flowable Cloud offering, because the current approach doesn't fit with the cloud environment because it was designed for on-prem environment. But also, while we were analyzing it, we also noticed that there were other things that needed to be improved, like we said, okay, maybe we can make the components deployment easier and faster, or also we can help the developer with the initial environment setup. And also, while we were seeing the components implemented during the last few years, we saw that there wasn't a really standard way of doing it. So we decided also to create a standard API for custom component implementation. So to achieve it, what we did is create a new tool that is available now, this Flowable CLI. What is Flowable CLI? Flowable CLI is a command line interface that helps the developers to create a boilerplate of his project and then to easily integrate custom component in design. One of the main goals also of the Flowable CLI is to help the developer during develop time. So for this reason, it's possible now, thanks to the CLI, to see real-time changes of the custom components in design. We can group the phases of the CLI in three main areas. So we have the project initialization that usually it is run only once. And then we have the develop phase. And at the end, the developer will upload the component. But let's start with the project initialization. So first of all, the developer needs to log in into the environment. To do it, first of all, he needs to create a token using our token management UI in design. And once the token is created, it can use it to log in into the environment. After that, the init can be run. It will initialize the project, and here you can see an example. So it will create a folder with a few configurations into it, and with this you can already see that we already resolved one of the needs, that was to give the developer an easy way to set up the environment. After that, the developer can start the real development, and that is using the components create. The components create will do two actions. The first one is create a skeleton of a React component, and it will add it in your local environment. And after that, we will also register the component in our design environment. As you can see here in this screenshot, my click counter, that is a custom component that I created, is already available in my palette. So also here, you can already see how we resolved one other issue, that was to make the deployment easier and faster. So before, we had to create the palette, we have to upload it, we have to rebuild and redeploy. Here, with just a command, we are going to see straight away our component in the palette. But also what you can also notice in this screenshot is that when a custom recently new, when a new component is dropped into the form editor, we will see a placeholder. So we won't see the real component. This because we are not yet creating the component itself. To do it, we have to enter in a new mode that we introduced in design, that is the dev mode. The dev mode, together with the watch command in the CLI, will help developers to see real-time changes in design. But how it works? So here you can see a schema of your local environment, where we have the code editor and our browser. And our browser is connected to our design server. What the CLI will do, the watch command, is create a WebSocket connection, client to client, that is really important, that is client to client. We are not passing through any external server. And every time that the code that the developer save his code, it will push the changes to the browser. So the developer will see in real time his component in design integrated. And this also resolves one of the other issues, so to make the development faster. Another improvement has been done for the component properties definition. So before, when the properties, when the developer wanted to define the properties, he had to write down all the properties in the palette file. But now we created this new UI, more intuitive, where in design, where the developer can define new properties or can inherit from other components properties. Also, together with it, we added a new CLI command called Flowable Component Generate Types. And what we'll do is we'll take all the properties that are defined by this UI and create the types and store in your local environment into the extra setting type. So, but once the development is done, what should the developer do? So the developer, after that, he thinks that the component is ready, he can click on the upload. He can run the command upload. What the upload does is create a build production and push it to the sign. This will make the implemented component available to all the developers in the environment. But keeping in mind that if the developer starts again in dev mode, it will see his own changes overriding the production bundle. The last step is to use the install. This is not a Flowable CLI command. This is it's possible for the developer to do it by using a dedicated UI that we have now in design. And what the install does is make the implemented component available to all the users, modelers or developers. So let's see here an overview of the workflow that I just described. In red, we can see the CLI command, and in black, the manual actions that needed to be done by the developer. As said, we log in, we init our project. Usually it's done only once. Then we start to create our components. And when the developer starts the creation, he can decide to go in watch mode. While developing, he can see his local changes in design with the real time updates. Or he can create properties, for example, using the UI in design, and then generate the types that he will use in development. After that, as said, we use the CLI to upload the component and create the production, to push the production build that is visible to all the developers. And then the last step is to install the bundle. But now is where it's really important to see what is really important to see in the diagram is that the installed bundle is included in our published app. So once a component is installed, when the modeler will publish the application, the JS bundle will be part of that published action. So in work, we are not going to need anymore to integrate the custom component in work. When we create a work instance, the custom component will be automatically picked up. But also, as said before, we also saw that we needed a way of standardize the way of how developers are implementing custom components. So for this reason, we create a new custom component API. Here, you can see an old way of doing a custom component. You can immediately notice that most of the property weren't typed. And also we have this on-change method that was needed to be copied in our component to make possible to change, for example, values in the children's. So for this reason, we say, okay, let's create a new API, and we created at the moment two new API. One is a hook that is called use custom component. As you can see, we have here the extra settings type that I mentioned before. So all the properties, all the functions are typed now, and it helped the development. And also we provided a new function called add validation that can be used to add a specific validation to a component. And with this, I finish my presentation and I hand over to Jorge that will demo it and will go into more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Orlando. Hi, everyone again. Let's dive into today's demo. The first thing we need to do is install and log in using our CLI. I have already installed this CLI, so I don't need it for the demo. This CLI will be available as a public package on the NPM registry. Now let's log in. The first time you log in, it will attempt to access our Artifactory. This is requested to reach the private form package. In the past, you would have had to modify npm rc files manually, but now the CLI automates this process. Since I'm already logged into the Artifactory, I will skip this step. Next, let's log in to our Flowable instance. My instance is deployed in a development environment. which is why I'll be selecting HTTP for now. The next thing we need is a token. Let's head to our design app and generate a new token for the CLI. We should be connected now, but let's test it just to be sure. Great, we are ready now to create a new project. In the Flowable component section of the CLI, you will find all the commands you need. Let's start by initializing the project. Okay, the project now has been created, so let's open it and see what's inside. First, let's do an install. Phew, okay, that took a while. Now, let's link Flowable forms. This step, you won't need it, but since it's not published yet on our Artifactory, I'm linking it for demo purposes. Let's open the repository. And as you can see, it's a standard TypeScript project with Vite. We have also added Tailwind support out of the box, which we'll be using during the demo. The components folder, it's this one here, and it's where all the components will be stored. Let's return to the terminal for the next command. Cool, now the component has been created. Now we have two options from here. We can either start coding right away or head over to the design tool to configure the component. Let's start with design. I can just double click here or command click, and it will open the custom component UI. I'm going to change the component icon. There's also the grouping that can be changed as well. This will show the component in a different place on the left-hand side of the panel editor. There's also an option to add all the necessary properties at once if you want to inherit from one of our out-the-box components. But now let's keep it like that. The most interesting part here is the custom property. This is similar to how we used to edit the palette files, as Orlando explained earlier. I'll show you how it works by creating two basic properties that we can use later in the component. Let's start with the first one. I will select a text type, my help text. And this one will be a checkbox. Let's click on save. And now let's get back to our development environment. Now we'll start to the development server with the next command. One cool feature of the CLI is that it offers a private playground where each user can develop and test their component. Let's get over there and see what we got. As usually, you can just come and click the link here. Great. Now you can see the component with the boilerplate generated by the CLI. Although this view works for development, it's not always ideal for checking runtime values. Luckily, there's an option for that too. We can head up to the runtime preview. And open the debug panel, and the engine is running now. You can see the values updating in real time if I just click the button. Okay, before we move on to the rest of the demo, let's recap briefly. This component is still in development mode. What it means is that we click on the playground link, which activates the dev mode, but actually the component only exists on our local machine. I will disable the dev mode to show you what happens. As you can see, the component is no longer available because it hasn't been uploaded to design server yet. Now let's try something different. I will reactivate dev mode and show you what happens if I stop the development server. As expected, the component disappears and the CLI prompts us to reconnect again. I hope that makes sense to you as well. Now let's jump into coding the actual component. For this demo, I used Tailwind UI snippet as a foundation to show you how quickly the workflow can be completed. Let's take a look at the stats. And yeah, that could serve me well. It looks fancy enough, and it has a nice CSS and styling. We can just copy the code. I'm going to simplify this because this is a third-party library, so I'm going to remove the icons. Okay. Now, seems that everything is fine. Let's quickly go again to our playground and see if this updates. I'm going to save it. And yeah, that's looking good. We can see the updated component on the page. Let's tweak the styling a bit to see if it responds accordingly. So I'm going to change the text to blue and save. This one here, I think it is. Yeah, it's been changed. Let's make it a bit more obvious. And you can see the component updated in real time. Okay, Nice. I think this gives a good sense of how the development server works. But let's push it a bit further, because this could be done with a static HTML. Let's create an input now, and I'm going to pick a radio button from Tailwind. Okay, this one looks good. Let's copy the code. The caveat with this component is that it has a third library dependency. So I will save you the effort, and I will move to another component that I have already prepared. Let's stop the server and run into the another project and start it here again. So here we have it already set up with a third-party library installed. Let's see if this works at design. I'm gonna remove tabs and remove this component and drag and drop the second one. Of course, it's not uploaded yet, but we can go to the development mode and see it running. Okay, this looks good. But the custom properties aren't showing up. Fortunately, the CLI has a command to generate the types. Okay. Let's go again to the file and see if the types are generated. And we can see them here. We should be able to see it. Okay, I know what's wrong. I need to head to this is a different component, so I need to create the custom properties again. Let's create one only for now. Okay, now you should be able to see it. The new properties on the last section. You can see it here. Since Orlando is from Italy, I picked a nice Vespa icon for the demo, but in future releases, you will be able to customize this as well. Let's add here something. I'm gonna use this property to set up the currency of the radio group, of the radio buttons. Let's select Euro. And now head back to the component. Okay, now I generated again the types, and you can see it here. So ideally, the IntelliSense will help us to read this text. Cool, that sounds good. So let's move it here. course, you don't need to stop and start again the server. I'm just only using one tap of the terminal to make things clear. Let's save it. And yeah, you can see now the currency on the right-hand side. I wouldn't necessarily do it this way in a real scenario, but for the demo, let's simplify it, right? Finally, I wrap the things up by showing the new method for creating custom validations. This is the new method. It actually acts as a wrapper of the old one, but with improved type safety and new parameters. Here we are just checking that the config value works and sending the error required if it's not present. Also, the only thing left now is storing this in the payload. So as you could see, we just copied the Tailwind snippet, but this use internal use state. We can switch back to our form state. Save it. And now you can see the value updating on our payload. Okay, that's cool. That's everything I wanted to show you regarding the code. Let's finish by deploying the component and publishing an app that uses. Let's upload first the component and install it. I'm going to stop my server and run Flowable components upload. Okay, this has quick access to the project view. I will click on this. And I will click on Install Bundle. Okay, it's telling me to confirm that everything works. So let me double check that everything is working as expected. We don't need the development mode anymore. And we can update it and see that now it's been rendered without the development mode triggered. Okay, everything looks good. So I will install it and add it to a form. Let's install it first. Now it seems like it's installed. Here on the left-hand side, you don't see the status as a modeler, but if you enable the development mode, it should tell you that it's installed. Yeah. Now it's telling you that my second component is installed. Okay. I have already prepared an app for this part. Let's create a process. Okay. Let's publish it now to work. I will create a new process. And this process will have a task with the form attached. Great. You can see it now working on real time. Okay, that brings us to the end of the demo. I hope that this has given you a clear understanding of how quickly and efficiently you can build and deploy components using our tools. Thank you all for your time and attention. And I will hand you over to Rafa for the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's great what you can do with custom form components. We have some questions coming in. Marcel is asking, from which version is it available?
The custom for components will be available on the next release. We are planning a 3.17 release in December, so it will be available then.
And Rainer is asking, can this also improve the development of custom components when Flowable is installed on-prem? Can the component be exported and included on a on-prem installation?
We definitely, it's definitely something we have thought of. Probably will be on the next release version on 3.17, but we need to check because our first approach is to support it for the cloud versioning, and deploy it also for on-premise.
And Mercer is also asking, what happens when you create a new project and you want to add a component to the existing custom components? Jorge?
So we support the same migration tools with Flowable Control, and on the versioning side, we deployed the custom components together with the app. So in case you wanted to migrate to a new version of custom components, you can do that from Control if you have existing running instances, or redeploying again for new cases.
Another question from Mercer. Is there a plan to add a standard icon component or a code Awesome icon be made available for direct use, such as, well, Awesome icon markup in forms?
Well, I mean, if we speak about the custom components at the end, you can integrate in your project once it is initialized, and you can use it.
Okay, and Tim Miller is asking, what is the most straightforward way for front-end code to call a Flowable service registry task, REST API? The native front-end REST API call cannot currently reference backend service registry REST API definitions, which is difficult for us as we rely on a service registry definition to handle REST API authentication and other REST API common settings.
That's a long one. So as Orlando was talking about the new improvement for the API for custom components, we were thinking also for a hook just to improve the experience of calling our API, and also to developing custom components that support such things as tables or infinite scrolling. So we hope we deliver on the next release, or maybe on a minor version, some kind of API to just support that or improve the handling.
And Jorge, how does versioning work?
I guess that's similar to one of the first ones, but basically we deploy the component together with the app definition, right, to work, and later we can just deploy it again as many times as we want. And as I said, we could also manage the existing instances from Flowable Control.
Okay, and I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, Orlando, and thank you, Jorge, for the talk.